Priorities Calendar feature gives a number of functions to assist you in scheduling your business. If we go and take a look at the calendar straight away, you'll see that there are a number of ways that we can display this. First, I'm going to want to highlight some dates to look at within the calendar. We're currently viewing the calendar by individual, and we can see entries that relate to given tasks. If I want to drill into them, I can look at their details, which will give me just an overview without needing to drill in, or I can double click or zoom into individual entries, which will then open up the underlying task itself. The calendar is interested specifically in the date and start and end times of whatever it is that we've scheduled, plus the task code. And the task code is the type of work that is actually being undertaken. If we drill into the type just for a moment, you will see that for each code that you create, we can set the color within the calendar. So that is what is driving, if we go back to the calendar, the fact that this time entry is green because it's an outside meeting, whereas just some work, some internal work is being scheduled as yellow. If we want to schedule a task on a given day, simply position the cursor at the starting point for a task and double click. And what that will do is it will open up the task, and it will give the task the correct start time, and there's a default duration for a task that you can set within the system. But of course, if you want to make it longer, then you can do so. If we set this as an internal meeting and we give it a task code of an internal meeting type, the other thing is that we may want to allocate multiple participants to this. We can bring in any number of additional people into the meeting. If we just add those three, and then with resources, we can define specific resources that we want to schedule as well. In this case, I'm going to pick out that this is going to happen in a large meeting room and we need a projector. And that's all we need to do to plan the resources. So as you can see, we've now got our internal meeting. Tasks can be assigned also to a number of additional fields. So if we say that, for example, this is a project activity, then we'll give this a task code that shows that it's a project activity. And in this case, we can define which project we're actually working on. Maybe we'll change this to say that this is training, just to be more specific. And remember also we can change the participants and the timings, but in this case we'll just accept that this goes on till 12:30. I've added a further meeting into my calendar. If I want to drill into it by double clicking, I can open the actual task. And one thing I may want to do is remind myself that the meeting is going to happen a set length of time, maybe an hour in advance of the task itself. All tasks can also be given priorities so that we can prioritize the tasks that we're doing to determine the things that are most important. When you need to work with multiple calendars at the same time, then the group calendar view is going to be easier to work with. There are a number of different ways that the group calendars can be displayed, so you can toggle between the different views, and there are also a huge number of settings that dictate the size of different components on the screen. But ultimately, this will enable us to find gaps in the schedule that all people can meet. For example, if you want an internal meeting that's going to involve everybody, then we can see that there is time to slot it in after the sales meeting. If we want to allocate a task to someone else, all we need to do is drag and drop in order to allocate to that other person. If we want to move the timing of the meeting, again drag and drop will change the timings as well. So this is the kind of view that will enable you to get rid of the large whiteboard that you're currently using to schedule your teams with and find the right space to slot in additional work and to reprioritize. A few last points on the calendar. If we go back into the calendar for a moment, the default view for a calendar is for your own employee record. We'll again choose a given week, but there are a number of ways that you can display either predefined groups of people, or you can actually select multiple people that you want to view within the calendar at any one time. So that's how you can get your group calendar together. The other point is the settings that are possible. So there are a number of different ways that we can set this. So we can use different scales of time to shrink or expand the views of time being shown by the calendar, whether we're looking at hours or days at a time. And you can also remove specific days from the view. You can determine what your normal working hours are, and therefore which you show and which you don't, and whether you hide non-working time or display it. You can display a background color to non-working hours if you want to show those non-working hours anyway. That gives you a huge amount of flexibility as to how to view these calendars and in an optimal way to assist you in the scheduling process.